Have you ever tried to go fishing at the beach only to find that the conditions are terrible and all your bait is being stolen by those stupid crabs? I know I have. It's super frustrating. If so, this is the video for you. I'm going to be teaching you how to catch Australian salmon on metal lures from the 90 Mile Beach. Learning to lure fish from the surf is an amazing skill to have and allows you to fish in almost any conditions and still catch the fish. In my opinion, it is the most fun way to fish at the surf. Let's start with the pros of fishing metals. Some of these pros are that it's a more active form of fishing, that it's more suited to rough and unfavorable conditions like side current and crabs. It allows you to cover more ground and find better spots. It allows you to pack lighter for your trip, and it reduces unwanted bycatch, like our friend the banjo shark. These are just some of the pros of fishing metals. What about gear? For gear, you can use pretty much any rod you have. I'd recommend one that's at least 8 feet long, but no longer than 10 feet. Being over 8 feet allows you to get your lure farther out into the water, and being under 10 feet makes it easier to cast without exhausting yourself. I highly recommend using braided line that's at least 10 pounds, but not more than 20 pounds of breaking strain. This balances casting with strength. Literally, whatever reel you have in your house should work. Note that you don't have to use the exact same gear as what I suggest. My rod in this video is only 7 feet long, so just use whatever you have that's closest to these specifications. Now for the main part of lure fishing, the lure. There's a picture on screen now of my favourite metal, but anything bright and shiny will work. Make sure that the lure is at least 40 grams, otherwise you won't be able to cast far enough. So, now that you're at the beach, how do you fish the lure? Well, firstly, cast the lure out as far as you can into the surf. When it hits the water, wait 3 to 5 seconds for the lure to sink, then begin winding. You want to angle your rod at a perpendicular angle to your body, facing up the beach, to keep the lure from surfacing. Crank the handle of the reel 3 to 4 times a second as you rotate your rod from facing up the beach to pointing offshore. Once you're facing offshore, firmly drag the rod back to facing up the beach. Keep repeating this until the lure has made its way back to shore. When you're tilting your rod towards going offshore, you want to make sure that you're winding faster than your rod is moving. So your lure is still moving, but it's moving a little bit slower. This gives the fish an opportunity to strike, and then when the lure darts along, it looks like a bait fish panicking, trying to get away from a predator. How to recognize a bite when lure fishing at the surf. It was my biggest question when I started off. How do you know what's seaweed? How do you know what's the current? How do you know what's a fish? Especially on lures where you're constantly winding. Well, a bite usually feels relatively simple. A bite often feels like a heavy weight is suddenly on the line, almost like you're suddenly dragging in a big piece of seaweed. If not, it could also be an aggressive tap tap or bump bump like on bait. Fish usually bite either right as you pause winding to pull the rod back during the winding stage, or they like to bite when you're winding and your lure is moving a little bit slower because it's easier for them to catch the lure. This fish took exactly as I expected, right in the pause between winding and dragging the lure backwards. A nice 37 centimeter pan-sized salmon to start the day off. Let's analyze the fight of my second fish of the day. Most often, salmon will hook themselves, but when you feel a bite, a smooth, sweeping strike is usually enough to hook the fish. Don't aggressively jerk the rod as you can snap your line or even pull the lure out of the fish's mouth. Fighting the fish. Australian salmon are famous for the legendary fight that they put up, and this is only amplified to another level of adrenaline pumping fun when using lighter gear and lures. The number one rule to never forget is that you always keep tension on your line. It should never fall slack at any point during the fight. You can see that my rod is always bent during this fight to keep the tension on. Just keep winding. If the fish begins to take line and run, let it. Make sure that your drag is loose enough that the fish will take line long before your line will snap, but make sure your drag is tight enough that it costs the salmon a lot of energy to take your line. If your line starts rapidly accelerating towards the surface of the water, act quickly. Angle the rod down and wind quickly. This is done to either prevent the fish from jumping by turning its head down towards the bottom of the ocean, or decrease the chances of the fish throwing the hook if it does end up jumping. If everything goes to plan, you should have a fish on the beach. Great job! Get some happy snaps because if there's no photos, then it didn't happen. Now you know the basic way to fish a metal lure, but here are some more advanced tips. If the lure is going along the surface of the water, either slow down your retrieve a little bit or let the lure sink halfway through your retrieve. Add some cheap mono line to your reel underneath your braid so that the braid reaches the lip of the spool. This is called backing and it adds an unbelievable amount of distance to every cast. So, funny little post video editing story here while this clip of me catching some fish plays. You might notice that I have a different rod in some of the clips, and that's actually because, funnily enough, when I was trying to record the tutorial section of this video, my rod was too short for you guys to see it and see what I was doing with my rod. So I actually had to re-record this months after I initially recorded it. So that's just a little funny thing, little inside look into the life of a YouTuber. So anyway, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed. Drop any questions you have in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.